Well, when people speak of the Oklahoma standard of hard work and toughness, much of it can be traced back to our proud farming and ranching heritage, which is why each year the governor gives out the Outstanding Achievement Award in Agriculture. And today we begin with this year's winner. To look at Jack M. Givens' resume, you'll see a laundry list of accomplishments: farmer, rancher, oil industry executive, Farm Bureau president, and OSU regent, just to name a few. But to sit down with Mr. Givens, you quickly learn it is his service to his country, service to his community and state, and service to the agricultural industry that makes his life worthy of distinction. Yeah. So what's the trick in growing wheat here in southwestern Oklahoma?
Jack Givens has seen his share of wheat crops.
Wait till you get some moisture first.
Yeah.
But I've planted a lot and just called dusting it in. You just barely cover it.
Born in 1922, Mr. Givens grew up in rural Greer County, working the land.
We went barefooted in the summer out on the farm, and I can remember chopping cotton. And after the cotton got about this high, the soil was so hot it would burn your feet. And I had a younger brother, and we'd take our hoe and kind of dig down, get a wet spot, or damp anyway, to step in, the hoe around, and it would move on down, you know.
And while he can recall the darkest days of the Dust Bowl,
it would just be a big wall coming this direction. And they'd actually turned out school because it'd get dark almost. When it finally hit, it just obliterated the sun and so forth.
His memories of life on his parents' farm are good ones.
It was really a happy occasion for me.
Driving his big brother's Model T to school at age 12.
I drove this car to Mangum 6 miles every day, parked it out in front of the grade school, and even the principal didn't have a car then.
Even becoming an Eagle Scout after riding his bike all the way to Medicine Park, 80 miles on old gravel roads.
I wore a blister on my back. I don't know, pedaling. And we were past these mountains over here when the sun came up. We got up, left at 4 o'clock in the morning. But we got down there before dark.
Such an adventurous spirit took young Jack off to college at Oklahoma A&M, working his way through school.
I started out working for 15 cents an hour, and finally built up to the highest paid job on the campus. It was 25 cents an hour.
But fate has a way to interrupt many a young man's plans, especially in December of 1941.
It was on a Sunday, and I remember hearing on the radio. Of course, they were still sinking ships and everything else at that time, but we had no idea because we were in ROTC.
In ROTC, Jack went on to officer candidate school, only to find himself on the beaches of Normandy, leading a platoon fighting their way through France.
We got pinned down with this rifle fire, and as a mortar shell came and went back behind us a couple hundred yards, and then as another one came, and it went in front of us. So I told the sergeant, the next round's coming right on the top of us. And I said, you better hit the ground. And the next round came, it just decimated our unit. We were out in front. I've been hit in the face here. This is just a fragment of the shell hit.
Wounded and far away from home, young Jack was hospitalized for months.
I was really feeling sorry for myself, what I was going to look like. And I heard all this moaning and groaning in there, so I walked in there, and here's guys with their legs blown off and their arms blown off and all that. So I no longer felt sorry for myself.
Sent back to the front lines, Givens likes to tell people he walked and crawled his way across Europe, dodging German bullets.
You could have got killed so many times that you didn't, And I felt watched over, I guarantee you, for sure.
Wounded twice more, Mr. Givens earned 3 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star before his war ended on a mission behind German lines in the early spring of 1945.
And the Americans were going to go around this mountain with tanks, and we'd take this town and cut the Autobahn and hold it. Well, this was like midnight, and we got over this hill there, and there was a guard there, but he was asleep. He was laying up against a chair. He didn't know there was any Americans anywhere close by. And then we captured over 200 there just inside this building, didn't kill anybody. And we decided to make our headquarters the biggest building we'd find there, and it was like a 5 or 6 story hotel is what it was.
But the next morning, Givens found his company surrounded by German troops, fighting their way out, no longer an option.
And we threw down hand grenades in this open half track, but then they called in a tank, brought a big tank in there, and they was just blowing the sides out. So I told them then to everybody, we just had like 30 men left out of our company by that time. I said, just go ahead and surrender.
But once captured, Jack Givens could even make a friend with his enemies.
They were taking me up to the commander up there while he was interrogating him, and he said, where'd you get that hole in your face there? And I said, there's a place called Filet Gap in Normandy. And he pulled his boot off and pulled up his pants leg, and he had a scar down about 10 inches long down this leg. He said, I got that at the Filet Gap just for, we were the ones that was right next to you. And he just laughed about that.
Mr. Givens was more than happy to leave the war behind, finishing up college and teaching ag education in California, until the opportunity to come back home and farm.
The first farm I ever bought was an 80-acre farm there, and I drilled a well on that.
Working the land, growing irrigated cotton and dryland wheat, while also raising cattle.
Yeah, I had Angus cattle. I had the first Angus cattle in here, and everybody had Herefords back in those days.
Through the years, Mr. Givens' farming and ranching operations grew to cover 5 different counties, yet always finding time to give back to his community and to his state, all the while raising a family with a loving wife of 50 years.
You know what tenacity is? I learned that in the military. I call it stick-to-itiveness. I found out the harder you work, the luckier you get.
That has given him the opportunity to travel and meet leaders across the state and around the world. Yet, through it all, Mr. Givens is at his happiest looking over his land.
As you get older, you know you're going to die at some point. And she says, what's the ideal way to die? And I said, well, I'd like to tell you that I'm going to go out and work on the fence today, and I'll just not come back.
Jack M. Givens, Oklahoman, and recipient of the Governor's Outstanding Achievement Award in Agriculture.
Now, Mr. Givens is the 15th Oklahoman to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. If you'd like to hear more of his stories, we have those and much, much more on our website. Just go to okhorizon.com and click on Value Added. And when we return, a look at work underway to teach our youngest generation the importance of agriculture.